One of the most important things that you need to be able to do as a Unix system administrator is monitor system performance and system logs. The reason this is the case is that as a system administrator you need to be aware when there are conditions affecting your system that affect its performance or security. Now, the first thing we'll talk about is monitoring system resources. There are several key areas that have to be monitored fairly continuously to ensure that your system is performing at the level it should be. A few of those are memory, CPU usage, disk space, and network throughput. Now we'll look at a few of those this session and through the next few sessions. Resources on a Unix system are monitored using different system utilities and looking at various logs that are output. And over the next few sessions we'll look at some of those. Let's go ahead and take a look at some utilities that we can use to monitor some system resources. We're going to take a few utilities now and that monitor memory, CPU usage, and disk space. And some of these can be used actually interchangeably with other utilities as well. Let's first take a look at top. Top gives us an idea of memory usage and CPU usage by process. And as you can see, this actually happens in real time, so we can see what's going on the system and how it affects CPU usage and memory. Again, this is by process. Now what you also can do is run top and look at it in terms of what processes and so forth are taking up the most memory and CPU usage. You do -o size, we'll get them by size. So right now we've got different processes that are running, and we can see how many threads, what their priority is, and so forth, and the size of memory they're taking up. Right now we see the top process, of course, is the console, but there are other processes as well that take up memory and CPU usage. The HAL daemon, SSH, sendmail, and so forth. So we can watch these processes to make sure that nothing is eating up too much memory or CPU time. Another utility we can use is VMstat, and VMstat can be ran such that you can see updated statistics every 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or whatever. And this is again memory usage, and you can basically see the average memory used, free memory that's out there, disk space usage, disk faults, and so forth. Statistics like these can tell you whether or not you need to add more memory or increase your page file, your swap file size. Another utility we can use is IOstat. And if we type in IOstat, say -W3, it's going to give us updated statistics every 3 seconds. And basically this tells us CPU usage in terms of different applications. And we can see there's not a lot going on right now. We're sitting fairly idle in terms of CPU usage and memory usage. Really, basically, we just have the console open. There's nothing going on. Now, you would see a lot of these numbers change if the server were conducting a lot of activity and so forth on the network, if there were a lot of users accessing files and things of that nature. The next utility we'll look at is sysstat, and it actually can be used with IOstat. And again, this is a CPU indicator, and you can kind of see what the CPU idle time has been, the load averages, and so forth. Going back to IOstat again, we can also use IOstat to look at disk usage, and basically it'll give us the device and the reads and writes to that, and we can see if there are excessive reads and writes to the device, and maybe we want to look at increasing memory or increasing our swap file size. Continuing along talking about disk space, we can also run the df command. And the df command basically gives us disk space usage per disk for file system actually, and what's used, what's available, the capacity, where it's mounted, and so forth. So this is not a continually running item of information, but it can be used to give you a snapshot of what the system looks like at a given point in time. If you want continually running information for disk usage and so forth, you can run gstat, and gstat is updated fairly constantly, and it'll run over time, and it'll give you basically a lot of information on information transferred to and from each disk, reads and writes to each disk, as a matter of fact. So right now, again, we don't have a lot going on the system, but in the event that there were a lot of users logged in, accessing a lot of files, we would be able to watch that and make sure that a particular file system had enough space, or that our memory and swap file usage was okay. And if it wasn't, that would be an indicator for us to increase those. So these are just a few of the utilities you can use to monitor some key performance indicators: memory usage, CPU usage, and disk space. And we'll talk a little bit later about some of the other key performance indicators as well that help us to know whether our system is performing at its optimum.